It has to deal with Matt Taibbi and I guess, well, his opinions on Gaza. So I want to pull this up here. This is a post from Max Blumenthal, who's done a lot of great work. I've got nothing but respect for Max Blumenthal. And he went on to write this. Hi, Matt. You just wrote Israeli supporters will argue with you. They will get defensive on days like today and lecture you about the history leading up to their decision. American advocates for Palestine don't bother arguing. Would you like to argue this point and others you've made about the Israeli-Palestinian debate live at the Gray Zone? Maybe Aaron will join in too. To which we wrote, make it happen. Thankfully, a lot of people have been sharing it out. You know, I will say this. Matt Taibbi has, in the past, we've sung his praises. We felt that he's done a lot of great work. But I do call into question at least some of his wording. So Matt heaps criticism on the mainstream media, but has identical framing to the New York Times. So what are we talking about here? Well, this has to deal with an article that he wrote in Gaza, the silence equal violence. The era of mandatory opinion once again rears its head. Now, I know for a fact that what's happening in Gaza, what we're seeing here, is absolutely insane. The fact that it's gotten out of control this far and no one stopped it says a lot about humanity. And in many ways, future generations will look at all of us with disdain and hatred for having a real-time genocide live on air on our social feeds to where it's become normalized. The Joker was right, you know, but hey, what he said in 2008 about a gangbanger being shot and a truck full of soldiers being blown up, I can actually now do an updated version for 2025. If I were to post on social media that the most prolific predator in international history would be reduced down to a hoax, or that the whole world would be watching a war zone and starving children die in mass on their little cell phones, nobody's going to blink an eye or panic because it's all part of the plan. All part of the plan. This is an article from his Substack. Israel is apparently threatening to destroy Gaza City in a mighty hurricane of bombardment if hostages aren't released. So most of what's written below is about to be irrelevant. But I've been pestered for years to say something about this issue and decided over the weekend to do so. Here it is. I would not say pestered, okay? If you have an opinion here, just state your opinion. Here, I'll give you my opinion. I think this war in Gaza is the most horrific example of man's inhumanity to man. We have allowed this to happen. The Democrat politicians and the Republican politicians and the silent, obedient servants of the American people. We know that this is wrong. People should be calling for a ceasefire. People should have been demanding it, but nobody said nothing because they let their opinions and political identities get the better of them. Our corporate media turned a blind eye to it until it can no longer be ignored. But now it's getting ignored because it's part of the norm. I don't know what to look or even say anymore when it comes down to when I'm probably questioned as an old man. Why did this happen? And I think the sad truth is it's all part of a plan. Look at how normalized it's become. I never thought we'd say that. You know, in the TV shows, in the movies, in the books. I remember growing up as a kid, if there was evil, the people stopped it. But in real life, we just let it happen. Excuse me, folks. It's just, we all know that this isn't right. Friday, amid news that Barry Weiss of the Free Press struck a $200 million deal to take over CBS. Whoa! All right, $200 million deal. I tossed off a note about Barry, CBS, and tears of legacy media. A deluge of outraged commentators followed. The math was Barry equals bad person equals not funny when you are when you solve for X in a lefty political equation, X inevitably equals not funny. Barry and I are not close. Once I believed she was boxing me out of the Twitter files and had to suppress thoughts of strength. Well, I would not be saying that aloud. That's me. That's him writing it, not me, YouTube. Suppressed thoughts of strangling her. She proved vital to the project. We have opposite politics. When she organized a debate on whether the U.S. should still police the world, she hired Li Fang and me to argue the Contra against her friends Jamie Kirkich and Brett Stevens. I came from independent media and won't leave. While I believe she's always hoped to return to prestige media, preferably as its conqueror. When that actually happened, it was hilarious. CBS turned the 60 Minutes legacy of Mike Wallace and Harry Reznor into rooting section for German meme police and transformed the stage David Letterman made famous into a venue for dancing syringe propaganda. But now came begging, ball gag in mouth, for 200 million disciplined session from a vaccine skeptical Substack dominatrix. How do I not laugh at that? Now, there's a little bit more here, okay? Because he does mention my good friends at Dissidence. Hey, I got a shout out in a paragraph. Russell of Dissidence, who I like, but deems me scum for not embracing his issue. Why'd you capitalize that? Put it this way after the Barry column. This really breaks my heart. Matt officially into his Vegas Lounge Act years. I don't get it. Do they have pictures of him next to a dead hooker in St. Petersburg? The irony is, I bet Russell initially became a fan of mine because I think for myself and don't regurgitate bromides about threats to the region or R-word camps or the existential threat to democracy or whatever the official propaganda line of the day was at the time. Now, though, it breaks his heart that I'm not speaking the magic words, genocide, Zionist, settler, colonialism, etc. I don't talk about hang-gliding terrorists or hostages either, but no matter. Left activist cliques are better than Pentagon versions, so failure to salute them makes me a genocide apologist with a dead hooker on my conscience. Well, I wouldn't put that word in, and I would not put the words of a dead hooker in either. For those who wonder why I don't talk about this issue, let me share a story or two. So there's a little bit more for that, but interesting. So I want to pull up another video here.
On Barry Weiss, CBS, and legacy media's tears. The mainstream press seems to believe it's a perpetual entitlement program. From the nation's subtle, vile grifters are taking over establishment media. Barry Weiss has been making the world worse for a long time. If we lived in a less terrible time and place, Weiss would be dismissed as a crank and a bigot and never heard from again. But we live in the waking nightmare that is the United States in 2025. So instead, Weiss is being rewarded with a prize that even she must think is kind of wild. That prize? CBS News. The person handing this gift to Weiss is David Ellison, the billionaire Nepo baby who just merged CBS News' parent company, Paramount, with his company, Skydance Media. Ellison, Puck's Dylan Byers reported on Wednesday, is paying somewhere between $100 million and $200 million to buy the free press and install Weiss somewhere at the top of the network. Of course, the nation calls Weiss a grifter, because that's how they view a process once known in the industry as making money. Since the icon of irrevocable media revenue loss was last profitable in, well, never, it naturally has a lot to say about the wisdom of paying millions to the controversial The Free Press editor. They weren't alone, recapping protests from the peanut gallery. An aside, a million years ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and the nation was the oft-ignored home of original journalism that challenged both parties, I was invited by magazine leaders to consult on how it might attract a wider audience. A contributor, I was asked to write a memo on how the nation could be more entertaining, and specifically funnier. In hindsight, I should have kept a copy. The idea was hilarious. The only thing I remember was proposing a Noam Chomsky recipe column, an idea that was of course rejected. I wrote features for the nation, but in 2004 was offered a job by Rolling Stone and quickly took it. Asked why I would leave the flagship of American liberalism, I mentioned Rolling Stone was offering about 5 times the nation rate, an answer that didn't strike them as convincing. I'm not the only nation vet to have this experience. Later, after a staff revolt led by editor Joan Walsh and Katha Pollitt, the nation effectively banished Aaron Mate, whose work for the magazine won him the Izzy Award for Independent Journalism. The nation griped that Aaron was playing into the hands of the Trump administration by questioning the Trump-Russia story. The magazine also exiled esteemed Princeton professor Stephen Cohen, husband of editor Katrina vanden Heuvel. And Walsh told The New Yorker she believed Glenn Greenwald's disdain for the Russia story was due to his unhappiness about the ascendance of women and people of color in the Democratic Party. In other words, the nation closed.
So there's a little bit more here that I want to at least pull up here because, again, responding to due dissidents, I just want to pull this up here. So, of course, this is what was written by a good friend of the show, Russell. This really breaks my heart. Massey is officially into his Vegas lounge act years. I don't get it. Do they have pictures of next to the dead hooker in St. Petersburg? What the actual F? And so there you go. What will you do then when they threaten to, again, everyone's kind of upset about this, what will you do then when they threaten to torture and kill your entire family? Russell says retire. That's pretty funny. He showed himself 1 year ago when I asked him about Gaza, and he refused to discuss it. From good friend of the show, Savvy Sabs. Well, it is rather disappointing. I would also go on to say that these magic words, that if you're so upset by them, Matt, I mean, go on the Gray Zone and debate your perspective with Max and Aaron. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. That's the only way I think there's going to be any kind of real clarification. I'm not asking anyone to change their mind or change their opinion. I'm not asking anyone to go ahead and, state your opinion. I'm pretty sure you've known Max and Aaron for a very long time. It should be a safe space in which you could share your perspective. There's no danger there, but maybe to clear things up. And I get it in this day and age where everything's hypercharged, everyone's emotional, everyone's easily triggered. There's no way for you to make anybody happy. When I give my opinions, I know I've upset a lot of people, and there's nothing I could do about that. I made it very clear where I stand on political issues and social issues. Is that going to be everyone's cup of tea? No. I mean, I've been called all sorts of names here too. That comes with the internet. That comes with the territory. I'm pretty sure all of you have dealt with it in one form or the other, but I think it's very clear when it comes down to this war in Gaza and what we're seeing as the Middle East is caught on fire, as there's more conflicts, more wars, more bombings, more starving, more people dying. And I do mean everyone dying across the spectrum. All right, I'm talking what's happening in the West Bank, Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, Iran, Israel too. This war is getting out of control. And as the flames keep on getting hotter and hotter, I mean, where is the rationale? Where is the reason of it being stopped? I'm going to roll with my quote now, the revised version of the Joker in 2008, now in 2025. We need a real clear idea where people stand on this, because I fear it's going to be normalized. So you're going to be on your phone, mark my words, after watching Hard Lens Media or after watching Due Dissidence or whatever else you're going to watch, Jimmy Dore Show, etc., etc., etc. Mark my words, you're going to be on your phone, be it on Instagram, be it on X, Facebook, TikTok, and you'll see the image of a starving kid. You'll see an image of a street being bombed. And it's all part of the plan. Where do you stand on the issue? At least for sanity's sake, where do you stand on it?